Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 7 of GCSE Chemistry. So, the learning question of today's lesson, sorry, I've got my fellow science teacher here with me. You're going to say hello?
Hello.
Okay, you need to sit quietly, okay? Sit down. So, the learning question for today is, how can we separate salt from a mixture of sand and salt? So we're going to look at a couple of different separation techniques that we use in chemistry, in the lab. Okay, so if you could make sure that you've got your pen or your pencil with you, and a piece of paper or a notepad, and if you could write down the learning question, how can we separate salt from a mixture of salt and sand? Okay, and what I'd like you to do is look at these pictures, these images that I found, and for each image, do you know what it is and what does it do? So if you can pause the video and do that now for me, that'd be great. Well done. So this picture here is a shark that's taking in water with like tiny organisms in the water, and it's filtering the water from those organisms so that it can eat the organisms and remove the water. The next picture, this one here, is a coffee filter. So it filters the coffee so that you just get the liquid. And this here is a sieve. So you can use that to strain things like rice to get the liquid out. Okay, so the answer to the purple question is actually fairly simple. What's the link between all these pictures? They're all methods of filtering. Okay, so they're all filters of some description. So filters separate insoluble solids from liquids, and that would be really useful if you wrote that down. Okay, so if you pause the video, write down that definition of what a filter is. All right. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is just a bit of revision. So last lesson we looked at atoms, elements, molecules, compounds and mixtures. And what I'd like you to do is some revision of that. So see what you can remember. Try to, without looking at your notes or going back, see if you can write these out and match them up to the correct definition. Okay, so pause the video now. That should take you a couple of minutes. Well done. So an atom is the smallest particle that there is. An element is made of just one type of atom, so the same one type of atom. A compound is two or more different atoms, so different types of atom, but they're chemically joined. So that's the really important point about a compound, they're chemically joined together. A mixture is two or more different types of atom that are not chemically joined, so like air. And a molecule is two or more atoms that are chemically joined. Okay, so they could be the same type of atom or they could be different. So that's the difference between a molecule and a compound. Okay, so the next thing that I'd like you to do, please, is we are going to watch a video. So we're going to watch a video of how to carry out filtration and then crystallisation in a lab so that you can separate out sand and salt from a mixture of sand and salt when they're together. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just watch the video first, so don't worry about doing anything just yet. Ideally it would be great to show you this in a lab, or even better, you could do this in a lab, and you've probably done this at some point at Key Stage 3. All right, but we'll have a look at a video of somebody doing it in a lab. Here we go.
For this experiment, you'll need a sample of salt mixed with sand, a stirring rod, some filter paper, a filter funnel, a conical flask, an evaporating dish, and a beaker. Take a sample.
Okay, now you're going to need to remember those pieces of equipment because I'm going to ask you to draw them out and label them a little bit later.
Of the sand and salt, and get some water. Start stirring with the stirring rod to mix them together. Mix it together thoroughly. This will help to dissolve the salt. Next, take the filter paper, fold it in half, fold it into quarters. I'm just doing this one-handed, so it won't be the neatest job. Then you take it, and one side on one and three on the other, so that you can pop it into your filter funnel. Go into the conical flask. Then you want to pour your mixture of sand and salt into the filter funnel. Try and get it all in. Now, what's left in the filter paper here, that is called the residue. And what has come through, that's the filtrate. Notice I'm not poking the filter paper with my stirring rod. I'm just letting it gradually come out. So I can take that out. And leave it to dry, and then I will have my separated sand. And then I will take my conical flask and pour it into the evaporating dish, where I will leave that on the side so the water can evaporate and the salt will be left behind, which we can look at.
Okay, so you can, that salt solution that you've got at the end, that salt mixed with water, you can pour it into the evaporating basin and just leave it for a couple of days, and the water will evaporate and you'll be left with the salt crystals. Or, probably more efficient, is putting the evaporating basin on top of a tripod and a gauze on top of a Bunsen burner and heating it to evaporate out the water. Okay, so the first thing that I would like you to do is draw out these 4 diagrams with a pencil and a ruler. Okay, and then what I'd like you to do is label the equipment. So if you need to go back and watch that beginning part of the video again, then you can do that if you can't remember the names of this equipment. Okay, and then what I'd like you to do is put the diagrams in order to show how salt and sand can be separated. And any other annotations that you can do would be great. So if you can label the residue or the filtrate, that would be fantastic as well. Okay, so feel free to go back and watch the video again if you need to. All right, so pause the video now. That'll probably take 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, and then we'll go through together the correct order. Okay. Excellent, well done. So this is the correct order here. So you add water to the sand and salt mixture and you stir it so that you dissolve all the salt into the water. Then what you do is you put a piece of filter paper into a funnel. You pour in your sand and salt and water mixture, and that's called filtration. So the liquid will be removed from the mixture. The liquid being the salty water, the salt and water. Then what you can do is you can leave that filter paper to dry so that you just get the dry sand. So that part's done. Then you pour the salt water into an evaporating basin, and then you heat it. You heat that evaporating dish or evaporating basin over a Bunsen burner to evaporate the water so that you're left with just salt. And then you're left with, at the end of it, the dry salt and the dry sand. So you've separated out that salt and sand mixture. Okay, so the last question today, I would ideally like you to answer on Showbie. So you can go to www.showbie.com. Your class code is there, it's ZKCJQ. And if you answer the question there, then myself or another one of the science teachers will be able to mark it for you and give you some feedback, which is really nice. Nice for you because you get the feedback, and nice for us because we are missing you guys. So list 2 of the hazards when carrying out filtration and crystallisation. So that those methods that we just looked at. So 2 hazards. Explain how the risks from each of your hazards could be reduced. So what could you do in the lab to reduce those risks? Okay, and that's worth 4 marks. So kind of 1 mark for each hazard and 1 mark for each way that the risk could be reduced. All right. Thank you very much for listening. It's bye from me, well, us, and have a lovely week, and I will see you next week.